your guide to the truth. TheNewAmericanMedia.com.
Broadcasting to you live from the Milky Way Galaxy, the solar system, planet Earth, North America, the United States of America, California, Los Angeles to be specific. Hello everybody and welcome to Agree to Disagree here on the TNAM radio network, because the news always matters. Welcome and thank you for joining us, where we've been doing this show here on the NewAmericanMedia.com for the past 3 years. Thank you to each and every one of you. Hit another milestone, which is pretty cool this week on our YouTube channel, 300,000 video views. No, we're not viral yet, and no, we haven't even started warming up yet. But even on just this tiny limited basis of what we're about to be giving you over the next 3 years and more, We've got a little bit of a steady fan base, and I thank each and every one of you from the bottom of my heart. My name is Brian Engelman, and I'm your host. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I certainly hope you'll have a moment to go check out our homepage, thenewamericanmedia.com. We have some, what did we get last week? Some footage from March Against Monsanto. We have 3 contributors, and we have one of the articles posted on the homepage with a photo. You just click on it, and you'll get the whole report. It's a YouTube report compiled by Blake the Eccentric Walley. Have an opinion column from Donnie Zaltzberg, one of our contributors over in Boston. It's wicked awesome. He's went ahead and done an update on the Justina Peltier case. Peltier. You know, the one where the state knows better, and so they took the kid away from the parents? Yeah. So he was out there. He also got some footage from March Against Monsanto, and I have some more stuff coming up that we're going to post as soon as we get the opportunity. But please take a look around at thenewamericanmedia.com. Subscribe to youtube.com/thenewamericanmedia. 3 years of content, cool stuff, sports, spirituality, finance, music, humor, politics, all that jazz. So check that out. And on Twitter, we're at American_media_. And on Facebook, do a search for The New American Media, with space in between, and like our page. So, Jay Carney, you may have heard of him, former White House press secretary. He's a goner. Too soon? What a tough job. Just having to lie all the time. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to bring in Blake the Eccentric Walley to the program, and we're going to talk about this a little bit, because you're seeing scandals across the board in this administration, perhaps the most corrupt administration in the history of presidencies. So we'll figure that out. We'll talk about that in a second here when we get Blake on the phone.
Hello.
Blake, welcome to Agree to Disagree. How you doing today, sir?
Excellent, Brian. How are you?
Oh, take a guess.
Are you living the dream?
I'm living. Well, you said living the dream. Are you living the dream? No, I'm living. With N apostrophe, living the dream. But pretty close.
All right.
Well,
Apologies.
Blake, I was telling people about the content you put together for the New American Media last weekend when you went to March Against Monsanto. So I'll tell you what. Let me hand you the floor for a moment. Take the podium, or the lectern, if you will, and introduce yourself. Tell them about the shows that you're doing and where they can stay updated with the work you're doing. And then maybe take a few minutes and tell us about what you discovered with this March Against Monsanto. What was it about? Who did you encounter? What was the atmosphere like? All that.
Well, let's see. My name is Blake Walley, and I am an activist, vlogger. I do a radio show 3 days a week called The Eccentric Perspective. You can find it on freedomizerradio.com. Let me say that one more time. freedomizerradio.com. And I also, find the podcast by going to iTunes and searching for Eccentric Perspective. Also, website, eccentricperspective.com. And you can find me on Twitter, eccentric99. And so, yes, I went to March Against Monsanto. It was pretty much in, most major cities around the country and the globe, and I happened to be in Las Vegas. I did have to work that day So I kind of scrambled out there as soon as I could roll out of bed before and get a little footage. I wanted to get some. I'd been there a couple of years ago and been on the march and all that good stuff, but I didn't really know how to do any video editing, and I was unable to upload it at the time. But I went there the other week and did a little man on the street this time, and I did get that finally edited properly and uploaded on the New American Media, which you can go check out. That would be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And what would you say? I mean, I totally get what the point was, but for people that might not be as hip to what GMOs are, can you maybe just give a quick overview of why this is important? What kind of some recurring themes that you were encountering while out there?
Well, you know what? It's unfortunate. I was very pressed for time. I really only had about 45 minutes there this time. I was there a couple years ago. I did encounter a lot more stuff, got a lot more time to interact with people. Basically, it's a lot of people that are there that are concerned about what's in their food, especially just the labeling aspect, which is a recurring theme in my Men on the Street thing. A lot of people are very concerned, not knowing what's in your food and then the companies not even having to label it when it's been tied to all kinds of different, afflictions, if that's all kinds of things, whether it's cancer or whether it's any kind of health ailments, we'll say. Just going down the board, I don't even know where to begin or end. There's so many health problems that could conceivably be tied to genetically modified food, and we're kind of being used as sort of a lab experiment because we don't really know the long-term results, but Monsanto is so powerful with its lobbyists and its influence in the FDA and the government that it's really hard to get them to respond. And, well, of course, they're also poisoning the crops. We have farmers in India, I can't even tell you how many, I think it's hundreds of thousands have actually committed suicide because of their crops, plus because they're having issues with them, or they have their powerful lawyers, their army of lawyers that goes out and sues people, hurts these small family farms if any of their any of their patents, any of their seeds goes off into some family farm, and they sue these families. They're very dirty, and they need to go. And and there was another march, and so I got to attend and talk to the people out there, and they expressed many concerns that they had and shared with me. And but I mean, there's plenty of intel on that all over the internet. Monsanto is not exactly highly regarded these days anymore, and I think that's all for now, I think.
Yeah, and it's all up there. On. It's the main thing you'll see if you go to youtube.com/The New American Media. And Blake, I was telling people we had another milestone this past week. We just surpassed 300,000 video views, which is pretty nice. Nothing we have done has gone completely viral, but like I said, we haven't even warmed up yet. So if you go to that YouTube page, the March Against Monsanto Las Vegas edition, you can see Blake there in all of his glory from the event and get the full scoop from the people on the ground for sure. So, you do your show Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and we talked off the air. We want to talk about White House Press Secretary Jay Carney, who is leaving, being shuttled out, escaping a sinking ship. We'll figure out exactly how. But before we get into this, because this is the main story I want to cover, there's this cool story I found from truthrevolt.org. It says the 9 top lies of outgoing White House Press Secretary Jay Carney, and I really want to go over these with you and get your thoughts, because this is a tough job, man. You're the liar-in-chief. No matter how ridiculous the stuff is, you just read off the script, and this is a tough job. People don't last there long.
Right. Yes. Someone. Yes. Exactly. Yes. Someone has to do it, especially if you've got a president that's maybe engaged in a bit of corruption, has a few scandals over his head, and you always have to go and spin, and try to make it look like everything's normal and happy and everything's fine. And Jay Carney, to his credit, has actually seems like he's done fairly well. I wouldn't want that job ever. I don't think most people would want to handle that or deal with that. But, you just broke this to me, because another day where I was busy working, so we were discussing on my drive home, and you told me that Carney had resigned. That was the first I had heard of it. I had heard before I left today, as I kind of got a chance to look at the news on my way to work, I heard about Eric Shinseki, the VA stepping down, resigning. Did he resign or did he get fired? I think he resigned.
Listen, at that point, what's the difference? It's such an easy thing to fire one guy like he's the problem. This is a systemic issue at the VA. It's almost I almost didn't want him to resign, because I wanted to really get at the heart of the matter. Like, oh yeah, it was this one scapegoat. Oh yeah, it was this one rogue employee down in Cincinnati, not the IRS taking orders from the highest offices of the land. Okay. Okay. So yeah, Shinseki's gone over at the VA, but Shinseki and Jay Carney announcing in the same day they're, are they leaving a sinking ship? But, I want to dig into this story for a second. But first, I was just going to say, is there anything else on your radar from this past week, from doing Eccentric Perspective, anything that jumped off the screen at you before we tear into this? Because looking at the 9 biggest lies that Jay Carney's told, it really gives a nice highlight, nice little recap of all the phony scandals that we've been told have been going on from our president. Oh, these are phony scandals. Let me be clear.
Right.
These are phony scandals.
No, I hear you. The biggest story of the week, I think by far, that I have noticed is the Bilderberg meeting up in Denmark this week. I think today's the second day, or maybe today was the first day. I'm not quite sure. Some of the largest movers and shakers of the world, the top levels of business and finance and technology and everything. The who's who, some of the real people behind the curtain. So they're all having a big secret meeting, as they do every single year, and every year it gets more press attention. And yeah, it's always an exciting event. Now they've been kind of fully exposed over the last several years, so it's interesting. So yeah, they've got their agenda that they're putting out, but I don't know. Things have changed a lot in the last 10 years or so, when they could pretty much get away with whatever they wanted, and it was just a conspiracy theory, and nobody knew who these people were, and blah blah blah. And now the mainstream media is being forced to cover it these days. Reluctantly, but and finally we get to kind of see some of the who the major people are. I could go over a few of the items just to kind of give you an idea of some of the things. Like they're like kingmakers, I think was a good way of noticing it. If I can find any of these, here, I got it right here. Like Bill Clinton, for example, who we had never heard of until I think 1991. He was kind of a little-known governor at the time of Arkansas, but he went to the Bilderberg meeting, and then he became president. And so there's another guy from Atlanta, a mayor, that nobody's really heard of much, and we're wondering if he's going to be groomed as another potential major leader. I believe Obama also perhaps in attendance. I'll see if I can find some of this information. But yeah, definitely Bilderberg. I think Tony Blair also back in 1993 was little known and then became a big leader. So Bill Clinton. Let's see. Yeah, they expect all kinds of stuff. I mean, these are some of the most powerful people in the world. Yeah, that gather in a secret meeting at some luxurious hotel and have this incredible security presence. So, but I think I'll leave it at that and take a quick pause here, Brian, if you want to share anything about Bilderberg?
Well, I mean, we know some of the key players. I know Luke Radowski. I believe he's there. He's
always there.
Yeah, he's somebody that we
several
interviewed. Blake and I got to talk with at the United We Stand Festival in Los Angeles a couple of weekends ago with, Sean Stone, Ben Swan, Amber Lyon, Abby Martin, Dan Johnson. Adam Kokesh.
Who do we get? Tatiana Moroz.
Luke Radowski, right. Immortal Technique. Yes, absolutely. It was really...
Corey.
Oh, yeah, Rosa Corey, exactly. Yeah, we have all those videos up at thenewamericanmedia.com as well. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting to know that we just interviewed Luke, and now Luke's out there with We Are Change, or I don't know which outlet he's with this particular time, but...
We Are Change.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. It's interesting because I remember as little as a couple of years ago, you would say Bilderberg and nobody would even think about it. Nobody would acknowledge it. Nobody would comment on it. And if it was, oh, you're a crazy conspiracy theorist. I mean, we're living in the post-Snowden era where I think people are kind of hip to what's going on. The system is rigged. You know, they're in a private club, and guess what? You and I are not in that club. You know, and is that how we want to govern this planet? Just from, a couple hundred obscenely wealthy oligarchs? Or is this, for the people, by the people, of the people? And if they're usurping our Constitution and our protections, our God-given protections, then they need to be replaced. And that's essentially, when you look at global governance and all the things that the United States has been involved in, whether it's Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Syria. I mean, Blake, name me a few more countries. But I mean, we're kind of playing Team America World Police here. And a lot of people say at these Bilderberg meetings they put together basically the marching orders. Here's our game plan for the next year, for the next 2 years. Now, all of you leaders of all of these countries and all of you industry giants, make sure that these things happen and these wars occur and that this turmoil comes up and that this occasion occurs and then we can make money this way. And I mean, it's just kind of like it's a big game of Monopoly. Like it's a big game of Risk. Except we don't get to find out what's going on in the meetings. We don't get to know what the rule book is. And they've already rigged the rule book to make sure that they get extra rolls than you do. Extra throws of the dice, extra pieces on the board. And it's not really a system that works in our democratic republic here in America. And we've been installing puppet regimes all across the globe for God knows how long at this point. And the Bilderberg meetings, they basically symbolize a lot of what people have been feeling is wrong with this planet for a long time. So I agree, Blake. It's a very interesting story. And I don't know. I mean, has there been any hardcore concrete evidence coming out? I know I've seen that some of the reporters are getting roughed up. Maybe some pictures of some weird photo shoot, maybe a leaked version of some of the plans going forward. I mean, what information do we have on the meeting so far?
Well, I've been out of the loop the last couple of days on this, so it's hard to say if there's any. I think maybe today was the first day of the meetings, so I mean they've kind of released some of the agenda. I could tell you just a quick rundown of 7 points of an agenda here. We got nuclear diplomacy. They're supposed to going to talk about how Russia, China, and Iran could work together to erode, the Western, the petrodollar. Or wait, that's nuclear diplomacy. Erode Western hegemony. So you have the recent gas agreement. That's what I was getting to next, between Russia and China. How that could, their long-term projects could likely reduce dependency on the U.S. dollar as a reserve currency. The rise of nationalism within Europe that is challenging the power structure of the EU, because you've seen big victories in the United Kingdom and France. People that are getting people elected that are anti-EU. You've got the European Union internet privacy regulations, the rise of cyber warfare. We're talking about Ukraine to Syria, and of course the climate change agenda. So it's a 3-day conference. I think today was the first day, and then it runs Saturday and Sunday, and that's about it there. So yeah, big private meeting with, and it's illegal. It's actually there's something called the Logan Act put into place that says that Americans aren't allowed to have secret meetings with foreign nationals behind closed doors. I mean, that's not right. You don't want your high-level politicians or whatever meeting behind closed doors because they're accountable to the taxpayers. So why are you having a secret meeting with foreign business people? What are you doing down there? You're not supposed to do that. But they've managed to change the rules a little bit. So, or at least they don't. And of course, if the media won't cover it or expose it, then I guess they can kind of get away with that stuff. That's kind of been the norm for decades. Is that these people meet and the media won't talk about it, and you're a conspirator, you're a kook, you wear tinfoil hat if you talk about it. And now they're losing their grip. Yes, so I know they would like to keep their money and their power. But they are struggling right now. There is a worldwide awakening, and people don't want to put up with that. It's not compatible with their system, and things are getting bad, and so we might see things changing a bit, and hopefully so. We definitely need it.
Well, the reason being is that a lot of the corporations and the big money interests that fund a lot of campaigns, these are some of the people that are meeting behind the closed doors that could be bribing the politicians so that the politicians are going to vote for their interests to get elected as opposed to defending and protecting the Constitution, the Bill of Rights of the United States of America, and the best interests of the average American citizen. That's essentially the reason for the Logan Act, right? I'm understanding
right.
that?
Yeah, exactly. Don't want to... It has all kinds of negative effects that could come from that. It's just not the way things are done in our system.
Well, it's just interesting because is there anyone in the mainstream media covering this, or the dinosaur media? I'm sorry, I got to stop giving them legitimacy.
Right. If they're forced to at some point, I think CNBC did a minor piece just to kind of acknowledge that, there are some powerful people that are, I wonder why they're having a secret meeting, but then that's really about it, without, really digging into it. I think a couple of other foreign mainstream papers have discussed it in some detail, not in some in a lot of detail, but just enough to cover it, make themselves, to give themselves some credibility. Of course, it was only a few years ago, I think, that even the New York Times was still saying it was a totally outrageous conspiracy theory and that people are making it all up. But, they're, now that they're imploding and losing their credibility, no one's really paying much attention to them anyway, so, who knows? So we'll see what else comes out of it. Like I said, I think today's basically the first major day where they actually sit down and have the meeting, so we'll see what other kind of coverage comes out of this before the weekend's over.
Yeah, and we'll keep our eyes peeled on Twitter and Facebook and for some updates on the Bilderberg meetings for sure. We're talking with radio host Blake the Eccentric Walley. You can hear him every Monday, Wednesday, Thursday from noon to 1:30 p.m. Pacific on freedomizerradio.com. And you can subscribe to him on iTunes by searching Eccentric Perspective. On Twitter, he's at Eccentric99. And he was definitely contributing to the New American Media. If you look at the events from the United We Stand Festival, and from the Bundy Ranch coverage, and from the March Against Monsanto, you can check that all out at thenewamericanmedia.com. But Blake, I want to talk with you a little bit about this. The White House press secretary Jay Carney is leaving. That's fantastic. I got to break some news to you. And it says here on CNN, Jay Carney is stepping down as the White House press secretary. President Barack Obama announced on Friday. Obama said Carney told him of his decision in April, and Carney later said he plans to leave the position in mid-June. The president announced that Deputy Press Secretary Josh Earnest will step into the role. Obama considers Carney one of my closest friends. Real quick here, I think this is very interesting. If you didn't catch the name of the Deputy Press Secretary, I mean this is hilarious. If I read a screenplay with this name in there, I go, come on, really? Earnest, Earnest. What is it? Let me look up the legal definition of earnest. I would guess sincere. Let's see. Earnest at dictionary.com. Serious in intention, purpose, or effort. Zealous and earnest worker, showing depth and sincerity of feeling. Seriously important. Demanding or receiving serious attention, full seriousness, as of intention or purpose. Fervent, intent, purposeful, determined, ambitious. Yeah. Earnest. I thought there was more of like a just and truthful connotation to the word, but earnest. Josh Earnest is taking over, and I found this story, Blake. I want to kind of go through these because we're not going to do a full super long program today, but I did want to go through this one, like I said, on Truth Revolt, 9 top lies of outgoing White House Press Secretary Jay Carney. So, it says in April 2002, White House Press Secretary Jay Carney offered some important insight into his job. Speaking at a scholarship lunch hosted by the White House Correspondents Association, he said he never lies in response to reporters' questions, and even when he knows more than he can say, quote, "When I go stand up at the podium in front of the White House press corps, I never lie. I never say something that I know is untrue. Credibility is enormously important to a press secretary." End quote. Before I continue, Blake, that pretty much sums up your experience with Jay Carney, right?
Well, it's been entertaining to have him around and just sit there and take abuse. And he's very slick a lot of times. I don't know. I'm a little confused in this first part here. So it says April of 2002.
I'm guessing that might be a typo from
wrong.
2012.
Yeah, I think so. It must be 2012 because 2000 wasn't he working for like Time Magazine or something like that? He must have had another gig.
I don't know, probably Monsanto.
Yeah, it must be.
Like in that movie, Thank You for Smoking, except he's with Monsanto. I could see that.
Right.
No, yeah, it must be 20.
I did see that once. It was a long time. I think I actually have the DVD. It was a good movie. It was kind of a one-time watch for me, but it was good.
Yeah, it was. Article continues. Of course, when Carney made that statement, he was lying about never lying. In fact, this press secretary offered up many a falsehood during his tenure of protecting President Obama from his errors, omissions, and scandals, or air quote phony scandals, I'll add. To honor Mr. Carney on the day his resignation was announced, we offer his top 9 lies as press secretary. Drum roll. Blake, can you give me a drum roll sound?
I wouldn't. That's your specialty. You're the musician. You're even a drummer.
Yeah, you know what? I got to get sound effects for this show. All right, number 1. Last month, when it emerged that Deputy National Secretary Advisor Ben Rhodes had written an email directing Susan Rice to emphasize the YouTube video story during her Sunday News Show appearances, Carney told the press corps the Rhodes email was, quote, explicitly not about Benghazi, end quote. Blake? The Ben Rhodes email, was that explicitly not about Benghazi, as Jay Carney claimed?
It was, and yes, I don't even know what to say, because, I mean, what do you do if you're the press secretary, and how do you keep all those lies straight and all the different stories and get up there? I mean, no wonder the guy wants to resign. I totally understand if that was that great of a job. And it'd be great to be a press secretary for Eisenhower or something like that. You have some integrity and some credibility, and it'd probably be an easy job. But when you work for some of the last few guys, and it's just becoming outrageous, the corruption goes, and then you have to, it's because they put up those little memes like it's easy to tell the truth because you don't have to remember what you said. But I mean, for Jay Carney, how would you like to be the press secretary for a couple of months and try to go up there with a straight face and act like nothing's wrong? So and part of it could be just him living in a bubble. I have no idea who feeds him the talking points or where he gets his news from. I mean, obviously gets his news from the inside. So I don't really know how he gathers intel. I don't know much of how his job works. But of course, that might have been their initial story from back in the day, back in 9/11, 12 or whatever. But it looks pretty silly now.
Yeah, I would say so. I don't know how I could possibly keep the lies straight. Which leads me to number 2. In mid-May 2014, which was really only a couple of weeks ago, Carney announced that the American Legion had praised the Department of Veterans Affairs for the, quote, resignation, end quote, of top VA health official Dr. Robert Petzel. Carney was only off by 100%. The actual American Legion statement was, the move by VA is not a corrective action, but a continuation of business as usual. Dr. Petzel was already scheduled to retire this year, so his resignation now really won't make that much of a difference. Thoughts on that one?
I didn't know. I didn't get into the VA story until a little bit late, but this is something that I had heard, that it was kind of like, oh, who cares if the guy's resigning, because he was already scheduled to retire anyway. So I'm not really sure. I'm going to have to leave myself. I recuse myself from this one because I don't know that part of the story well enough on that VA saga.
Well, the VA thing's unraveling. I mean, it makes sense in theory to have it makes sense to have a performance-based system. Where the better you do, the more you make. In theory, that's capitalism. But the way that this was handled, I mean, it's just rampant abuse and lying about numbers so that you can make extra money at the expense of dead veterans, which is disgusting. So I think this story is going to be coming out more and more as we move forward.
Oh, yeah. There's whistleblowers, new ones every day in different locations, because, I mean, this is everywhere. I mean, it's one thing to have an IRS scandal, start in, Cincinnati and part of Washington, but I mean,
yeah, I was going to say that's if you don't believe
everywhere.
It started at the White House and then it went to an advisor, then it went to Cincinnati. But okay, sure, for the sake of argument.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, for all of them, they have like a certain group of people or whatever. But I mean, the VAs are everywhere. They're in multiple locations in every state. So there's all kinds of whistleblowers. That's going to be a hard one to. You can't contain something like that one.
And maybe
you can contain a Benghazi. You can change the names of the survivors and witnesses, and try to stonewall your way around everywhere. But when you're dealing with the VA, it's a totally different animal. So they've got their hands full, and they've it's just beginning, I think.
Maybe the VA scandal is the Michael Jordan of scandals. You cannot stop them. You can only hope to contain them. Yes, right. The current version would be with the LeBron James guy down in Miami. But I'm a Cleveland Cavs fan, so I'm not a favorite. All right. I wanted to date myself. I might as well say Bill Russell or Elgin Baylor or something while I'm at it. But yeah, I mean, maybe that's what Jay Carney was seeing. The storm clouds on the horizon, saying, you know what, I'm going to cash my chips in and just kind of walk away right now. I cannot handle this one. This is going to implode. And that's kind of what people are thinking is going to happen. Let me move to number 3 here. Carney told reporters at the White House press briefing on November 28th, 2012, quote, those Benghazi talking points originated from the intelligence community. They reflect the IC's best assessment of what they thought had happened. The White House and the State Department have made clear that the single adjustment that was made to those talking points by either of those two institutions were changing the word consulate to diplomatic facility because consulate was inaccurate. End quote. But 6 months later, in May 2013, ABC News reported the edits included requests from the State Department that references to the Al-Qaeda affiliated group Ansar al-Sharia be deleted, as well as references to CIA warnings about terrorist threats in Benghazi in the months preceding the attack. Blake, this was a huge issue that Romney completely fumbled and bumbled and stumbled on. I said going into that foreign affairs debate that if Romney didn't have the president walking away like a child who'd been kicked in the shin real hard and had his favorite toy taken from him by a bully on the playground, he really messed up, and Romney really messed up. He was not really pressed on this at the time, and he was allowed to perpetrate this ridiculous YouTube story through the help and efforts of Jay Carney lying about it. I mean, what do we do with Benghazi, here on May 30th, 2014, knowing all the lies that they've been telling us? I mean, how many lies have you documented on Benghazi?
Oh man, it's hard to say. We still don't even have a. I mean, it just everything. The whole thing has been a stonewall. The whole thing has been a lie from the get-go, on so many different levels. So I can't imagine how difficult it would be to do Jay Carney's job in these situations. So I think he was clever in this. It is very clever to do that. You're asking if they're changing the talking points, and so you mention a couple of the minor ones and leave the juicy stuff out. But of course, that would have gotten him into a lot of trouble if he had mentioned that they had changed references to Al-Qaeda or whatever about the terror threats. So, yeah, it's understandable. I guess that's part of his job, but that does also make him a liar to a respect, yeah.
You know, and about the Benghazi scandal, you know, because I think this has been an impeachable offense. You know, we're looking for that smoking gun finally, but, I mean, between the IRS, Benghazi, Fast and Furious, so many things I think are impeachable from what this government has been giving us over the past few years, especially. But regarding Benghazi, the fact that a lot of these lies were told, let's just face it, one of the main reasons why these lies were told was so that President Barack Obama could go out there in the debates and lie to the American people. Just like he said, if you like your health insurance, you can keep your health insurance. If you like your plan, you can keep your plan, period. Straight up lies to the people. It's fraud. There's no other way around it. It's fraud. It's intentionally deceptive. But as far as Benghazi's concerned, I was a lot less concerned that the lies were being told to protect the re-election bid of Barack Obama. Like, I even understand why they would do that for that purpose. But this is so much deeper than just making a mistake and trying to stay above the fray and not get sucked down by it in some November surprise, September 11th is when this happened. I understand that they want to get reelected, but this is a lot deeper than just being embarrassed and trying to make up a few lies to, you know, maybe this story will pass and I can get reelected. Doesn't this seem a lot more complex and a lot deeper of a story, a lot more going on behind the scenes than just trying to win an election, Blake, with Benghazi?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the thing is, if the truth had come out on Benghazi right away, we'd have President Romney right now. I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm just saying that that's probably the reality of what would have happened. So, of course, they did whatever they could to cover it up and downplay it and stonewall it. And, so they bought themselves another 4 years, but I don't know what's going to be worse. They can't hide forever. So we'll see how it eventually develops. I mean, I'm still waiting to see what's going to happen with the new committee and Gowdy. I'm pretty excited to see how that's all going to play out. But, I could imagine that would have been spectacular in a way, watching the Benghazi thing just right so close, right in front of the election. You know, you got a close race, and then all of a sudden something like that happens, and then it's over before you know it. And then, then you have a Romney coasting to an easy victory. That would have been very, very embarrassing for for Obama, the Democratic Party, everything. That would have been very weird historical turn if that had happened. So I don't know. I don't know what.
Gotta say the context of it all, because the quote, and I'm gonna play this little montage here on YouTube about the president, because you got to put it in context, because the story was that Al-Qaeda has been decimated and Osama bin Laden is dead. Period. If you like Osama bin Laden dead, you will remain dead. Period. But that was the context of what was going on here, because these were the claims being made by our president. Let me cue this thing up. It's real short. It's about a minute.
By the way, isn't decimate mean you destroy everything but 1/10 of 1% or 10%? Decimate?
I think maybe. I'm not really sure about the technical definition.
Well, can you get back to me on that while we roll to this tape of people?
That was actually a funny decimal joke. I thought that was pretty funny. Anyway, Greg Gutfeld, this is from
Talking
Fox.
about Al-Qaeda being decimated.
There should be no doubt. Today, America is stronger, and Al-Qaeda is on the path to defeat.
We've decimated Al-Qaeda's leadership.
Al-Qaeda is on the path to defeat.
and bin Laden is dead.
We've decimated Al-Qaeda Central. We have eliminated Osama bin Laden.
Al-Qaeda is much weaker than it was when I came into office.
Osama bin Laden is dead, and General Motors is alive.
The war in Afghanistan is coming to a close. Al-Qaeda is on the path to defeat. Osama bin Laden is dead. Today, the core of Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan and Pakistan is on the path to defeat. Their remaining operatives spend more time thinking about their own safety than plotting against us.
So this was the backdrop. This was the big, this was the big catchphrase. Osama bin Laden is dead, and GM is alive. Period. But that's what it was. It was that Al-Qaeda has been decimated. That's it. We've done it. We've fixed the war on terror. And then what happens? A consulate gets bombarded, and people are dead. Ambassador Chris Stevens, Navy SEALs are dead. We're wondering why didn't they send in the reinforcements when there were people who have testified saying that they were there ready to go and they received orders to stand down. Why? Okay, so a mistake was made. Why didn't you go get them and do the best you could to bring them back? What about all the interviews with the people that were on the ground? Where are those interviews from the people that know what happened there? You know, there are so many untold stories here, but it's obvious, Blake, that Al-Qaeda was not decimated if they staged an attack on a U.S. embassy and killed our delegate over there.
Yep, absolutely, and that, like I said, that something like that would have really cost them the election in all likelihood. So they went forth and cooked up a story on the fly, and the rest is history, I guess.
Number 4, in April 2012, Carney said that the president had never argued the so-called Buffett rule would solve the country's deficit problems. Perhaps he didn't remember when the Buffett rule was first introduced in September 2011. President Obama claimed the tax would, quote, stabilize our debt and deficits for the next decade, period. You know, I mean, that was a lot of that class warfare, the 1%, the Buffett rule, paying your fair share. It was really just, you know, war on women, the 1% versus everybody. I mean, it was really just kind of divide and conquer with that, and that was another thing that Jay Carney had to go through and, you know, kind of spout out there, but he definitely contradicted himself there with that one. Number 5, during the 2012 election, Hillary Rosen, who's a Democratic Party consultant, said Ann Romney had, quote, never actually worked a day in her life, end quote. Turns out that Rosen had visited the Obama White House 35 times. Carney told reporters it might be a different Hillary Rosen. Hang on, just so we get this one clear. During the 2012 election, Hillary Rosen, who was a Democratic Party consultant, said that Ann Romney had never actually worked a day in her life. It turns out that Rosen had visited the White House 35 times, and Carney told reporters it might be a different Hillary Rosen, and that he personally knew 3 people named Hillary Rosen. Rosen herself said she was the only Hillary Rosen she had met before, which is, Blake, I just think that one's pretty funny. That's just kind of a classic.
I know at least 3 Hillary Rosens, too. That's quite a coincidence.
You know,
no, I don't.
Don't you have 3 Hillary Rosens doing shows on the Freedomizer Radio Network every Monday, Wednesday, Thursday from noon to 1:30 p.m. Pacific?
I believe so, and I think I have like 3 on my phone book on my phone.
See,
I gotta differentiate all of them. I gotta put their middle name in there.
You know, and this one makes sense in the course of an election. A Democratic operative, you know, blasting the First Lady, saying she's never worked a day in her life, and that turned a boomerang really quick on those guys, and it was distance our. You know, think Cliven Bundy, think Phil Robertson. You know, when they or Donald Sterling, when people blurt their mouths and say, you know, dumb things. You can just see the rats jumping off the ship, and then that's what this was. But you know, Carney handled it quite cleverly. Right. It might be a different Hillary Rosen.
Brian, I'm curious, not to get sidetracked too long, but have you ever looked up other Brian Engelmans out there?
Yeah. Here, let's.
Okay, yeah, because I think I've seen there's like another 2 Blake Walleys, which I'm really surprised at because it's kind of rare, especially the last name. But no, I was curious if you had seen any other of your name. It's kind of weird.
Well, I just for the sake of argument, I did a quick Google search here. So far, I got New American Media. I got the Twist of Nothing on Twitter. I got Jordan Maxwell interview, an Oathkeeper interview, Facebook page. That's not me. Okay, that's a different Brian Engelman.
Different with the exact same name.
Interviewing Ben Swan, Rosa Corey, Agenda 21, some Instagram, but I don't. Oh, that's 2 N's on Brian Engelman. Like Caddyshack. Yeah, I don't know. And let me go to this.
One from looks like Kentucky Mugshot here. I don't know if this is the same name or not.
Hold on, is Kentucky Mugshot? That was my nickname in high school. Kentucky Mugshot. I like that. That'd be a good horse racing name.
Perhaps. Yeah.
Dude, listen. I like this. Kentucky Mugshot. Mugshot. I'm gonna have to use that in something. I don't know what. No, I'm looking here on, and it's got a bunch of the stories and video. Cavs win the draft lottery. Will they draft Andrew Wiggins, John B. Wells, and Brian Engelman? Talking, Yeah, I don't know. I mean, just from doing a quick search, I mean, most of these Brian Engelman are me. I couldn't imagine it being a completely random name. Hang on, how did we get to this? To see if you Google...
All right,
because of Hillary Rosen. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, we didn't go and get sidetracked too much, but I was curious if you had seen that. But anyway, apparently Hillary Rosen had she said that she was the only one that she had ever met before. I wonder if she Googled her name, though. Maybe, to be fair, we should have her.
Yeah, we should get
her. You there, Brian?
Yeah, we should get her on the program. No, sorry. Now you have me Googling my name. Whatever. Tell us about your Blake Walleys. You got some...
I don't know. There's a couple younger guys that live out in the South somewhere. I think one does some songs on YouTube, and there's another one that plays football or something that I've noticed. But no, I've never actually tried to reach out to them and contact them. Although that would be totally awesome to it'd be weird to go have a beer with your somebody is like, hey Blake Walley, and it would just be really weird. I don't know.
Excuse me, I go by the eccentric. Adjust your bow tie.
Yes.
All right, moving on from the Hillary Rosen thing. Let's see. Number 6, in April 2011, Jay Carney told reporters that Obama was never against signing statements, except when George Bush abused them. That's not what Obama said when he came out against signing statements in 2008 while running for president. So, it's good for the goose, but it's not good for the gander, the pot calling the kettle, whatever. Yeah. Well, I said that as a candidate, but my opinion on signing statements has evolved. Period. Yeah. So, I don't know. That one's not egregious, but it's just another example. Number 7, October 2013 saw millions losing their health care plans thanks to Obamacare. Guess what, Blake? I was one of those millions who lost their health care plan. Thanks, Obama. Dude, hey, and I've called you dude twice, sorry. It's funny because I was looking at, as I Googled my name, I found all those interviews with John B. Wells, and I know that's one of his favorite, his most vilified pet peeves is when people call him dude, when people say dude. Can't stand it.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, no, but you said thanks, Obama.
Say that all the time.
I know, and it's something that we should probably weed out of our lexicon.
I don't know if I would say it to John, but just because I don't know, it would be different because he's older than me. I don't think I call older guy. I don't think I usually call them dude. I usually call my friends dude or maybe somebody more closer to my age or something like that. So I don't think it would be something that I would normally do, but I might say, hey, what's up, man? I don't know if I'd say dude.
Well, hey, let's
anyway, you got to pick and choose your dudes carefully. All right, anyway.
Blake, you might be revealing a lot more about your social life than you may be aware of. You got to pick and choose your dudes carefully. Okay, anyway, moving on. Speaking of famous dudes...
According to the emails and the timeline, the CIA circulates new talking points after they've removed a mention of Al-Qaeda.
Yeah.
And then at 6:21, the White House,
me,
add a line about the administration warning of September 10th of social media reports calling for demonstrations. True?
I believe so.
Did you also change attacks to demonstrations in the talking points?
Maybe. I don't really remember.
You don't remember?
Dude, this was like 2 years ago. We're still talking about the most mundane
it is the thing
process.
that everybody is talking about.
We're talking about
Dude, that was like a long time ago.
Maybe. I don't really remember.
You don't remember?
Dude, this was like 2 years ago. We're still talking about the most mundane
it is the thing
process.
that everybody is talking about.
We're talking.
Dude, I love Brett Baer coming back. Dude, that's all that anybody is talking about. And honestly, we did a show a couple of weeks ago. Blake, you and I did. And we called it "Dude, Benghazi Still Matters." So maybe the dude is slipping out a little bit more. If you want it to get really bad, if you want to have a full hardcore relapse into the dude stuff, why don't you watch Big Lebowski? There's no way you're gonna walk out of there talking normal for a couple of weeks. It's anyway. I digress. I just wanted to play that because I think there's a reason why we're saying that a little bit more than usual. So anyway. I digress, because what I was getting at is number 7 here. In October 2013, we saw millions losing their health care plans thanks to Obamacare. And I was one of those people. And I'm not happy about it. It's fraud. Okay, so on October 31st, after weeks of the news reporting horror stories of people losing their insurance, Jay Carney was still hanging on, quote, "The fact of the matter is, if you had insurance on the individual market prior to the passage of the Affordable Care Act, and you have that plan today, you can keep it. You're grandfathered in forever, no matter how crummy the plan is."
I love how they just when they switched that narrative. That was one of my favorite things that they did. Was when the people started losing their health care plans, and they tried to spin that and they weren't good plans anyway. So you actually did you a favor.
Okay, you repoed my car out of my driveway. Ah, well, that was a clunker. That was a cash for clunker. We just didn't give you any cash. What? Like, what are you doing? You just came and stole something from me. That's not the role of government. But, I mean, Jay Carney's had to weather... Seriously, because out of all the Obama scandals, you would probably say, Blake, Jay Carney's tenure has kind of seen the eruption of the biggest and the baddest and the worst. Right?
Oh yeah, I hope this guy gets to maybe at some point gets to write a book and gets to tell all. That would be worth it. That would be totally awesome if that could ever happen.
Wow.
All this kinds of stuff that this guy had to go through. I can't imagine having to be the press secretary and learn all that stuff, try to keep all that stuff, and then on top of it, all the corruption and lies, and then you got to sit there and spin things and play word games with the press. Yeah, I wouldn't want it. So I'm sure he's really happy now.
Number 8, Jay Carney repeated.
In the summer, hanging with his kids. Go ahead.
Yeah,
that was number 7, right?
Yeah, anything, Blake, would be better than what he's been. I'm sure he makes a decent living, and I'm sure he's gonna have a great career on MSNBC or something as some pundit, some talking head, whatever. Go giving some speeches somewhere. That's fine. But what a rough tenure, and they're not even touching on any of the NSA scandals. And it's not a scandal. I want to retire that word scandal. Because, like I said before, a scandal, when I hear it, it's like, a married man, I don't know, that married man succumbed to the seduction of so-and-so, and this video shows them kissing in a movie theater. What a scandal. To me, that's a scandal. But when you're completely setting fire to the Fourth Amendment protections against illegal search and seizure without probable cause... that is impeachable. To me, that's a high crime. Impeachable offenses are high crimes or misdemeanors. That Fourth Amendment is pretty damn important, and they're just running roughshod all over it. So, this doesn't even get into all of those. I just don't want to call them scandals anymore. I want to call them impeachable offenses, Blake. Because I think words have power, words have meaning, and the longer
scandal isn't strong enough.
That's what I'm saying. It's nowhere close. It was an indiscretion that may or may not occur again. It was a momentary lapse in judgment, not a Cloward and Piven, well-thought-out, decades-long strategy taught by your mentors how to, cripple and destroy this great country. That's a little bit more than an indiscretion, a one-time mistake.
As the great, one of the greatest minds of our time, Chris Matthews, has said that he's called them kerfuffles.
Was it Jay? Hold on, wasn't that your nickname in high school?
Kerfuffle?
Kerfuffles.
No, I had never heard that until good old Tris Matthews.
Could you imagine if someone's nickname?
Tinglepants.
Christopher Tinglepants. Yeah, I mean, could you imagine if that was somebody's nickname in high school? Hey, Kerfuffles! Kerfuffles, dude. Anyway, number 8. Jay Carney repeated over and over that the IRS scandal was limited to a few rogue employees in Cincinnati. He even fought with Joe Scarborough about it. And that was false. The whole IRS thing, they've been stonewalling and trying to pretend that this thing isn't much bigger than it really is. But this is a huge story using the long arm of the government under threat of detention, jail, being disappeared from your family through tens of thousands of incomprehensible pages of tax code nobody understands, even the people that write them. It's like I've heard a lot of people say, give your records to 10 different people, you can get back 10 different records for taxes. It's a completely weird system, but work in the NSA spy apparatus to figure out who your political enemies are. I mean, the IRS scandal was targeting political enemies and opponents of the Obama administration, literally using your own tax dollars to wage war against your own people. That's a civil war kind of thing when you start attacking your own people. You should be able to have different opinions on policy, but you shouldn't be able to use the IRS to go ruin the lives and financial livelihoods and interpersonal relationships of people just because they don't agree with your policies. I mean, this IRS thing is crazy. This was never about a couple of people in Cincinnati, and we still can't get the information on it. I think that's just astonishing, Blake.
I agree. I did not get a chance to watch the Joe Scarborough interview. It's only a couple-minute clip, but I'm curious. It makes me wonder if Jay Carney maybe not so much consciously lied as if he lives in a bubble, and he really, maybe they kind of keep him unlimited access to information, and he really truly believes that it really is only a few rogue employees in Cincinnati, and that the rest of it is just a bunch of BS because he's purposely, intentionally kept in that bubble so he doesn't, perhaps maybe even unintentionally leak information out to the press. So that's a possibility too. So it's hard to say. So maybe Jay Carney one day he'll write that tell-all book and he'll be like, yeah, and I went on Joe Scarborough's show. I really thought it was just the rogue employees in Cincinnati and that the rest was all made up. Honest, I have no idea. So, but I mean, it still turns out to be a lie, and he still turns out to be the fall guy for it, though. So that doesn't help. So maybe he'll enact a little revenge sometime later. I'm sure they've got him under a tight contract on non-disclosure of everything going on. But could you imagine what could be said if he was allowed to tell it all? Tell it like it is?
If those walls could talk, yeah, if Jay Carney isn't silenced in a mysterious car crash next week. It's like that Stephen Wright comedy bit. Pulls over, the officer's walking up to his car, he puts in his red contacts, the officer says, "Hello, sir, license and registration." He looks over, gets his license and registration, hands it back, and glares at him with his red eyes. He goes, "Here you go. Oh, by the way, officer, I'm so sorry to hear about what happened to your family. Tomorrow." Could you imagine if the people that left the White House did actually sing like canaries? They'd be sleeping with the fishes, see? They'd be sleeping with the fishes, see? I mean, come on, man. If those walls could talk, oh, wow.
Hopefully they do. That would really, a whistleblower from inside the White House, that would be nice. That would actually, we could probably finish off some of this corruption problem a lot faster if we could get somebody to work against the system from within. But yeah, they'd be in a lot of danger trying to do that.
Well, that's what you're getting at.
Not even some of the secret. Yeah, I mean, not even like people like Dan Bongino, who's a former Secret Service guy running for office. As much as he despises Obama, he won't shed some of the dirt, and you know that he must know a lot of stuff. He'd love to tell if he could, but No, they take their own little oaths and sign their contracts, and who knows, but...
Well, you raised a point earlier about Mitt Romney, and, not that you wanted him to win, to piggyback off what you said, to bring the system down quicker. I think Barack Obama being in office might speed up the demise of this oligarchical system that is just collapsing on every single front in front of us. The constant, blatant, ridiculous, foolish efforts to lie and cover up for all of these air quote phony scandals. It's just pushing people further and further away from the dinosaur media to the new American media, where it's just all of us saying, you know what, we smell a rat, we're going to do our own research. We don't trust you anymore. We're not buying your propaganda. Go sell it elsewhere. And the numbers might not be, haven't maybe hit the critical mass, the tipping point, but I kind of feel like it has hit the tipping point. It's almost like Weekend at Bernie's. This is a corpse walking, man. This thing's died a long time ago. They just didn't get the memo. But like back to what you were saying about Jay Carney for a second. You were saying that maybe they don't tell him. Maybe he lives in a bubble, or maybe they just don't tell him some of this stuff. And it reminds me of that scene in Independence Day where the president goes down into the hangar. Maybe it's at Area 51. And he says, "Wait a minute. Where in the heck did we get money for this? What kind of black budget is going on? Why was I not informed?" And he says, well, plausible deniability, sir. If you're asked a question about the UFO incident, UFO situation, you'll say that there is no UFO situation. You don't know what they're talking about because you don't know what they're talking about. If you knew, you'd have to lie, and it's easier this way. So maybe that's what they do to people like Jay Carney. They don't even give them the truth. But at some point, you got to know when your lies are going to get crossed up. I would imagine you have to be... I would imagine that the former press secretary might have to know all of the dirt about everybody in order to be quick enough on their feet to not set them be painted into a corner.
I don't know. Yeah, because that makes it, in a way, it does make it tougher to keep the lies straight, or he can live in a bubble and get all of his talking points directly from Media Matters and MSNBC, and then he would just have he'd be innocent in a way, even though he looks like a liar to us. It's weird, but it's kind of like setting him up just to sit there and take the flack, and he's being used in a way. But I really don't know. We don't know, so it could go either way, and I don't know. I don't know how that all works.
Number 9 on this story from TruthRevolt.org. It says, and this is the final one with Press Secretary Jay Carney leaving today. It says, in January 2014, Carney told Major Garrett that the 7 million Obamacare enrollment goal was never a White House figure. It was a Congressional Budget Office estimate, and that other estimates varied. Even after Garrett interrupted him with, Kathleen Sebelius said on September 30th, this is a direct quote, I think success looks like at least 7 million people having signed up by the end of March 2014. Carney continued to try and spin his way out of it.
Well, it does have a hyperlink, so I'm curious to see where that goes.
All right, let's click the hyperlink. Here we go.
It's only a minute and a half.
The aggregate number at the end of March is less important than the demographic mix. Why is the administration backing away from the 7 million person enrollment figure that Kathleen Sebelius, Marilyn Tavenner was a goal, and a legitimate goal, and a reachable goal?
What I would say, Major, is that the 7 million estimate was a CBO figure from earlier this year on how many people they thought would come in during the first enrollment period. Some estimates were lower and some were higher. This is the first time that this has been done, obviously, so it's hard to predict what that number would be. It's important to understand that there's not some magic number, 6,999,999, and the system collapses one more than that and it functions perfectly. The issue, obviously, is there has to be some volume. Some estimates have been as low as 2 million, but what that makeup looks like, both demographically and geographically. So all of these issues are important. So we're not backing away from a number that we didn't put out originally. I think that others noted that 7 million is a fine target, but that will not determine whether the marketplaces function effectively. But the issue is...
said on September 30th, this is a direct quote, I think success looks like at least 7 million people having signed up by the end of March 2014.
Look, I think
it sounds like she's embracing that, not just conceptually, but she says that's what success looks like.
Well, I think success looks like having...
Yeah, we're going to miss you, Jay. You listen to a minute and a half of that, and you're like, okay, I heard words, and I know what you're saying, but, like, what information did I just get out of here? And
yeah, right.
You just talk in circles, political speak.
Yeah, and at that time, January 2014, I mean, the Obama rollout was such a disaster. Hardly anybody was signing up, and they needed to get 7 million people by a few months from then. So, yeah, they were really, really panicking. And then we're still not really sure about the numbers. They just seemed to, at the very last minute, just pulled a miraculous 7.1, just barely meeting their deadline, and just a little over, and it was pretty suspicious. So we're still not really sure about the exact numbers, but when you're kicking a bunch of people off their health plans anyway, and then 7 million people signed up. I'm not quite sure. Not sure how many people are actually signed up for Medicaid, or how many people got the subsidies and all of that, or whether they made their first payment or not. I'm not really sure, but it was certainly a disaster for Carney every time to get up there and to take heat on Obamacare. That must have really taken a major toll. That's probably why. Why did he step down? Do you think that was before? Do you think well, here's a question for you, Brian. Do you think he chose to step down before the VA scandal, or did that happen yet? Or he already did have his plans in the works before?
Well, according to some of the stories I'm reading, Blake, if the president says that he approached him in April about stepping down in June, and he's going to tell us in late May, I don't buy a single word of it. Whatever the administration tells me, I just figure they're covering something else up for something.
Maybe we should ask Jay Carney.
Yeah, maybe we should. I just want to read some of these quotes here from that little dance around segment. It says, I think success looks like you getting thrown out on your butt along with your blank communist in chief. Someone else said, strangely, Carney's red beard, even with its white patches, because he's all bearded up in this one, even with his white patches, bestows no gravitas. Carney still looks and talks like a 16-year-old smart aleck. And somebody else says, couldn't help but notice the beard on Carney. Is he getting a jump on his signing up for the Witness Protection Program in 2016? So, finally, and another one, busted again. How many more times are you going to lie to America? So, I mean, you look at 5 of the top 8 comments here, and they're just pretty brutal. I don't know who's really seeing, who's not seeing through the BS on this, Blake. I think Carney has had a hell of a run. Do I think it was before? If they're saying that he told Barack Obama in April, and I don't believe it because I don't believe anything they tell me, then yeah, it's the impending surge of the VA scandal. He sees it on the horizon. Obama does not want him to go, and he says, look, I've served a hell of a lot of time here defending your Benghazi, your Fast and Furious, your IRS, your Obamacare. You have got to be kidding me. This is one of the most incompetent, corrupt administrations in the history of corrupt, incompetent administrations. I'm out. Peace. I'm out. I am not doing the VA thing. You let this crumble on somebody else's watch. I have served valiantly, and I'm outie. Peace. Deuces. You know, that's what I'm thinking, Blake. Would you tend to agree with that, or do you have a different opinion?
No, I think so, and I'm curious to see if he's going to go out of his way to watch the next set of press conferences, because he's going to be like, oh, thank God I didn't have to answer that, because he's going to see the Jonathan Karl and Ed Henry, or this, I don't know, this Major Garrett, or whoever's going to put the press secretary under fire and watch him squirm and sweat, and he doesn't have to be there anymore. I'm sure he'll be delighted.
You know, I wonder if they're going to go back and watch videos of the next guy. You know, sometimes I felt like I would pay attention, like if I left a position, like I'd follow up on what the new guy's doing. Turns out I just didn't care sometimes. You know, and it's interesting because, I mean, you and I don't go back and listen to our old radio shows. It's very rare that you and I do that, right?
Yeah, not too often, no. I usually don't have time unless I have something I need to do. But I've done it before, but yeah.
Yeah, usually I don't know. I wonder. It would be interesting getting the feedback from a former press secretary, White House press secretary, on a current White House press secretary in the same administration. It'd be interesting to see that feedback. But yeah, I mean, today is a sad day in a way. We all say goodbye to Eric Shinseki of the VA and Jay Carney, former White House press secretary for Barack Obama. But I won't be shedding any tears. It's going to be a rough 2.5 years before they can slither out of this office if they're not impeached in the meantime. So we'll all stay tuned for all the drama unfolding. As for me, I'm just going to continue to say I think the Constitution and the Bill of Rights are important, because I don't think the government should be doing a lot of what it's doing, and that's exactly why the Bill of Rights was put in place, with our God-given rights, not government-given. And, so long as I see people violating our rights and maybe setting us up for failure, I'm going to keep resisting it and fighting against it, because it's not right. There's plenty to go around without people having to act that way. So, Blake, I'll give you the final word on our way out. You got about 40 seconds. Any final comments, and once again, where people can find you online?
Yeah, let's leave it at that. Blake Walley, or Blake the Eccentric, website eccentricperspective.com. But I've also got stuff on the newamericanmedia.com, and I also have a radio show Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, The Eccentric Perspective, on Freedomizer Radio.
Nah.
I'm good, Brian. Thank you again for having me on.
Absolutely, man. We for the listeners out there, I think we're going to be launching another project. It might just happen. It might have a huge rollout with a bunch of balloons and pomp and circumstance. We have yet to determine exactly how, but yeah, I mean, you're a news junkie just like me, so we'll keep this going. And once again, at this special time, special hour on this wonderful Friday, I appreciate you taking the time to join the program, Blake, and we'll be talking with you soon, okay?
Excellent, Brian. Have a good one.
You too. Take care. There goes Blake the Eccentric Wally, everybody. Please do us a favor. If you haven't followed us on Facebook or on Twitter, we're at American_media_. Do a search on Facebook for The New American Media with space in between and like the page. Check out our homepage, thenewamericanmedia.com, and subscribe to youtube.com/thenewamericanmedia. I'm Brian Engelman, signing out for the TNAM Radio Network here at The New American Media.